So we're
Okay, are we starting over?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we're talking about the idea of death and
Are we talking about the idea of death, or are we talking about death?
let's talk about, well, yeah, that's a good question.
Because I can talk about the idea of death, you know.
Well, that's
But talking about death is, you know, a way more serious thing.
right. Well, I don't.
Maybe.
I don't know the difference. I mean, I don't know.
Well, sure. That's an important issue because in our culture, in the United States and in Western European culture, in the modern and postmodern era, more so in the United States, which is an industrial society where everything has become industrialized, including death. Death is really more of an idea. Hope I expressed that correctly. But death is more of an idea. We don't really deal with death. We deal with the idea of death. It's you know, pretty obvious that most of the time when it's time for us to die, we're sent to the death factory, where, you know, everything can be properly documented and everyone can get their cut of the profit to be made from this thing, from this industry. So, you know.
So there's a societal aspect to how we deal with death, and then there's how, you know, the death, that our idea of what's going to happen when we die.
Right.
And,
and then there's dying.
right.
Now, you know, of course, obviously, that historically, that even in the last 100 years, that hasn't always been the case. I was telling somebody at the job the other day, we were talking about, you know, death. I don't know how, but we were. And I was like, well, you know, that's a lot of fun. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you know, in Great Britain and, you know, some parts of Great Britain and some parts of Europe, when somebody dies, they don't leave the house. You know, they die, and then, you know, the next day they dress the body up and sit it up over there in the corner and pour it a beer and pour everybody else a beer and have a big party. It's called a wake, you know, and there's other names for it in other cultures. So, you know, that's just how it goes. And I don't know if that makes it less problematic or less depressing. I don't think, you know, I think people will always be afraid of death. But maybe it makes it a little less powerful, you know?
To those living, or
to those dying.
Yeah, this is what's going to happen.
And to those dying, you know? So I was listening to Alan Watts, and he has a lecture on death. He's just talking about how in modern times, you know, they put you in a hospital room and, you know, the person probably knows they're dying, but no one mentions it to them, and the people file in and out and they see them, and, you know, the doctors, you know, minister to them. It's just all a charade, you know.
There's no ceremony.
Or just, you know, it's an industry. I go back to it's an industry, you know. And, as you know, I'm a Marxist, and I think that capitalism has falsified and vulgarized almost every aspect of human experience, including death, including life, including art, including religion. Everything's been industrialized. You know, everything has a price and a process and a professional who will charge you the price for the process. You know? And So, yeah, whereas, of course, the internet is, I think, resolving some of that to some people's dismay, but then again, who owns the internet? But there are these websites where you can go ask a, quote, expert. I have a friend who is on, she's a nurse, and she's on one of these websites, and she works from like midnight till 8 o'clock in the morning answering health questions on the internet. So I guess that empowers people, but still, there's industry there, as opposed to folk medicine and folk music and folk art, which were, before there was industry, folk medicine and folk religion and folk art was religion, medicine, and art. But, we have to classify, designate, put things in their little box, including death.
So, I don't know that I've met these people, but I think that there's people out there that aren't so afraid of death, and there are people that are afraid of death, myself included. And I think the reason why we're afraid of it is there's different reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on that, either in general or?
Well, obviously, it's unknown. It's the unknown. And in some societies, it's a destination for judgment. In some cultures, I should say. It's a destination for judgment. But it's the, it's the extinguishing of the play of consciousness, or whatever, it's this is that. But really, it's just, it's we don't know. It's as simple as that. And, yeah. But maybe it's, actually, I shouldn't say it's a rational, I shouldn't say maybe it's a rationalization, because it certainly is a rationalization or an intellectualization or whatever that one does with scary things in the mind, depending on what school of psychology you ascribe to. But I really am becoming more and more aligned with the idea that this very reality itself is just something that rises up out of something else. That our consciousness is an illusion. That self is an illusion. Now, I could be clever with the words and say, well, self is an illusion because it disappears. And anything that is real doesn't disappear, That would be false, but it works. You could put it in a song, I guess, or something. But no, there's a philosopher named Schopenhauer who posits the universe as idea and will. And I won't claim to fully understand Schopenhauer, or even take your time to try and explain that part that I do understand, but just for purposes of this discussion, if I understand Schopenhauer, the reality that we're seeing comes from, and I don't know if he ever uses the word God, but it's a manifestation of an idea. For instance, critically speaking, an analysis of that bottle would be that it's, you could give the chemical composition of glass in the cap and the water that's in it and all like that. That bottle is a glass bottle of water. You could do that, but the fact that it's a glass bottle of water is because there's an idea that it's a glass bottle of water. And that's why it will be used in that way. Now, you can take that same glass bottle of water and you could make it bigger, put more water in it, and put a pump on the top of it and put the words fire extinguisher. And so now it's a fire extinguisher, or whatever. That's, I don't guess there's any water fire extinguishers, but you get the point. So our life and our existence, becomes reduced to just the Cartesian cop-out of I think, therefore I am. So if I don't think, am I not? Even better question, was I ever? From what do I arise now? So I don't know. We come from something and we go to something. We're always becoming something. So this life, I don't know. I don't know, that it's that important. It's just, or that. People say, "Oh, I don't want to die." I'm like, "Oh, why? Why shouldn't you die?" I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't fully develop that thought, but
Yeah. Well, I think that's the. Well, do you have any feelings about even feelings or thoughts that are just feelings and thoughts about what it would feel or look like or feel like to be on the other side of this?
well, first of all, the idea that there's another side is